France, back to the issue here, is stepping up the push for a single alliance to combat ISIS. The White House revealing today that in exactly 1 week, President Hollande of France will travel to Washington to meet with President Obama. The French president then heads to Moscow to do the same with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Just yesterday, I asked Israel's former ambassador to the U.S., Daniel Ayalon, how he approached protecting Israel regardless of political correctness. Here's what he said.
We are a democracy, which we are very vibrant democracy, which we're very much proud of, but we are a democracy under attack, and we have to defend ourselves and our values and our ways of lives. So we say human rights before, or human lives, sometimes before human rights.
Human lives before human rights. Howard Leach likely grappled with the exact same concerns. He became the U.S. ambassador to France just a few months before 9/11, the attacks here in New York and in America. He's here in a Fox Business exclusive. Human rights versus human lives. The Israelis have straddled that under great criticism. We now have this migrant situation here where you now have 31 states. As we speak, it changes, 31 states that are saying we don't want the Syrian migrants because one got through and was able to effectuate a partial attack in France. What are you thinking, having been through a similar emotion on 9/11?
Well, right after 9/11, the French were very supportive of us. One of the major French newspapers printed a headline, "We're all Americans." I think now that the French are looking for us for support, President Hollande spoke out to the combined meeting of their parliament today, asking for cooperation from both the United States and from Russia in fighting this terrorism attack on all free people. They are trying to intimidate us and trying to deprive free people of their freedom. Where ISIS rules, the people have no freedom. We enjoy ours, and they are trying to attack it. I think that President Hollande, in asking for support from us, would expect that we would do that. I think they're disappointed in the initial response from our government that we aren't going to do anything. I think many,
can I just push back a little bit?
Many American people are disappointed.
Well, we had air raids that we have facilitated with. In fact, there are pictures on Twitter and on the internet of bombs where Americans wrote "From Paris with love" that were headed straight for Raqqa. You know, that there are the air raids, just to be fair, but I understand what you're saying, where it doesn't seem that the tenor of the United States leadership is coming through. But now we have this situation where it's focused back here on us. When you were ambassador during 9/11, I'm wondering, to France, there were refugees at that time, or there were people here of Arab descent here, and you likely had to grapple with the same questions that these 31 governors are dealing with now.
I think the 31 governors are wanting to protect the American people, because clearly what happened in France, which was a tragic event, is a threat against people's freedom. And I think that the governors are thinking that ISIS would come here if they can. We must destroy ISIS, and we aren't going to destroy them just with air raids. We aren't going to destroy them with hot air from Washington. It's going to take boots on the ground. That's what President Hollande is asking for, not just ours. He's asking for a coalition. And I think that we need a coalition to wipe out ISIS, to protect the American people as well as people in other free countries.
But, you know, there was an immense amount of goodwill globally for the United States post 9/11. How does Hollande wrap his arms around the goodwill that is coming after this horrific attack in France and use it to convince some of these other allies, certainly in the European Union, because he has pushed to have that mutual, effort on behalf of the EU to help? How does he then broaden that to the Middle Eastern countries? Where is Saudi Arabia, Ambassador? They have the second largest military on the planet. Arguably, they should have a stake in this, too.
Well, you make a very good point. The way you build a coalition is you need leadership. And I think that usually the United States in the past has provided that leadership. France is trying to do it now. President Hollande is going to Russia. He's coming to Washington. He's seeking a coalition. And I think a coalition is exactly what we need to protect free people, because the freedom of all the free people of the world are being attacked by ISIS. We must destroy ISIS.
Well, okay, and that is clear. Now, Hollande has invoked the word war. He said this war against ISIS must be ruthless. I think that actually emboldened a lot of people to say, finally, it was an attack. It was an act of war on a free and open country. How important is the psychological, if you will, propaganda? If they're using it, why can't we? If the ISIS militants are using it, shouldn't the free nations of the West be utilizing that as well?
We certainly should, and we know where ISIS is. The heart of ISIS is in Syria and Iraq, and that's where the money comes from, that's where the motivation comes from.
Although it's here, look at these pictures now. What do you see? You see the raids that are happening in France and what they have discovered. Sir, they found 200 police uniforms. Who knows? Are they trying to put together a fake militaristic police department that can then somehow storm into and successfully bomb a soccer stadium?
The French are being strong, and they're dealing with it with strength. They're obviously making these raids, finding the problem. They are attacking the problem the best way they can. But I think in order to be totally successful, to keep the people of the West free, we have to wipe out ISIS where they are in Iraq and in Syria. It's too bad that we have to do something like that, but the only way that I think people of the West can be free and have their freedom and enjoy the free lives that we all do.
Ambassador Howard Leach, former ambassador to France from the United States, we thank you very, very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Liz.